I'm not too familiar with this. Nothing's working here.
Number you have reached has been disconnected.
There we go.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have 9:31, Liz, so shall we get started?
Yes, Madam Chair, let's do that. All right, my name is Liz Kukla. I'm the Secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals. And I'm going to read the preamble for you this morning, this Monday, March 6, 2023. In compliance with notification requirements of the city's open meeting law and section 101.021 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the city planning department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Please note that call-in users can unmute by using *6. Maurice. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We have provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. All requests to speak on a particular matter have been considered. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I see that we have Councilman Slife with us, and conveniently, that is his is the first case on our calendar. So let's do the call to order and the roll call now.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Britt and Ms. Roca will be absent this morning. Ms. Holzer,
Present.
Ms. Brown,
Present.
Ms. Bate.
I am present.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum with 3 members.
All right. And I think we need to announce that since we have only 3 members today, should anyone who's present, any appellants that have a case before us today, wish to postpone their case until we have a full complement, which will be about 3 weeks, you are, excuse me, you have that option to do so now or when your case is called. All right, Liz, do you want to go ahead with the postponements, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say one more thing about the only having 3 members today.
Yes.
The appellant's risk the case being denied if there is not a unanimous vote of 3 members.
Thank
So
you.
that is could be an issue. And again, as you stated, we should have our 5-member full complement board back in the next couple of weeks. Just again, this is just to let the applicant know that that we must achieve a unanimous vote of 3 members in order for your case to pass. Okay,
Great.
Madam Chair. Sorry.
Thanks for reminding us of that.
You're welcome. Calendar number 23-029 regarding 11725 Lorraine Avenue. Yasin Corp. LLC proposed to change use from store to assembly hall and a C1 local retail business district. This case is being postponed this morning at the request of city planning, as there is a pedestrian retail overlay, I believe, that's involved. And
Yes.
therefore there's an additional review required by city planning. So Madam Chair, I think 30 days, maybe a little more would be appropriate. So
I think let's give them just a little bit more.
Okay, that would be April 17th.
Okay, I feel like that's probably prudent since there's several things going on.
All right. Okay, so
All
then
right.
calendar, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Calendar number 23-029 is postponed if we're not hearing any objections from the board members. Okay, it is being postponed this morning to April 17th at the request of the City Planning Commission. If you received a paper copy of the notice, you will receive another copy of the notice in the mail before the hearing. And again, there will be no testimony this morning regarding this calendar number 23-029. So the next postponement, Madam Chair, is calendar number 23-026 regarding 9900 Ostend Avenue. Tamara Washington proposed to establish use as a residential facility for 5 occupants in a B1 family residential district. We've received a request for from the council person to postpone this case in order for him to have further review of the details.
Okay, so I think probably we'll do 30 days on that one then. Or
Okay.
what do we have? What do we have available?
April 3rd and also April 17th if you have.
All right, I
you
think
wanna-
we can. I think probably April 3rd is enough time for that one.
All right. Okay, so calendar number 23-26 regarding 9900 Ostend Avenue. is being postponed this morning to April 3rd. If we are hearing no objections from the board members.
No objection.
Thank you, Ms. Holzer.
Okay, thank you. And again, as with the previous case, there will be no testimony taken on this case this morning. And if you received a paper copy of the public notice in the mail, you will receive another one closer to the hearing date. Thank you. And that's all that we have for postponements and withdrawals this morning.
Great. So Maurice, next. Excellent. There we go. Okay, so Ms. Holzer, would you like to go ahead and read the case into the record, please?
No problem. Good morning, everybody. Our first case is calendar number 23-012. This is at 4020 West 161st Street. Daniel Rabkowicz proposes to construct a one-story attached garage addition in an A1 one-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances, as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and your address, please.
I do. Daniel Rebkevich, 4020 West 161st Street, Cleveland, 44135.
I do. Catherine Janke, 4024 West 161st Street, Cleveland, Ohio, 44135.
Thank you. Anyone else for this case?
Go ahead, Councilman Slave.
I'm just saying, I don't know if I have to be sworn in since I'm the city. So
Yes.
You do, but
There you go.
you can't use City Hall address.
City Hall.
Okay. Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, history of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In our Records Administration Office, we found that the dwelling was erected in 1928. And then in 1973, a permit was issued to erect a chain link fence. There are no variances on file and nothing of note in the more recent history. Thank you.
And legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the minimum distance requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Okay, Mr. Is it Rabowitz? Is that correct?
Rabkowicz or
Rad-
Rebkevich.
Radkowicz. Okay, thank you.
Morning.
I assume that you are going to be representing yourself and telling us what you want to do here.
Yep, and I've got my architect here as well to answer any questions technically related.
Okay, and who's your architect?
Michael Tomsick is on here as well.
Okay,
Hello?
Michael should have been sworn in.
Can you hear me? I tried swearing in.
Okay, we can hear you now. So,
Okay.
Ms. Brown, do you want to just go ahead and swear him in quickly, please?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and your address, sir.
I do. Michael Tomsick, 921 Literary Road, Cleveland, Ohio, 44113.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, if you'd like to tell us what you're going to do.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Local legend is that my house was the model home for Bellflower Avenue back in the 20s. Was the first house on the street, and INSO was, for whatever reason, never had a garage. So since 1927, it's never had a garage. And I've I've been fortunate enough for the last 20-something years to use my mother's garage down the street, but she's elderly now, and that house may not be in the family forever. So it's time for me to build a garage, so I have somewhere to put my car, my lawnmower, my snow blower, that type of stuff. So what I'm proposing, if you can see the rear view of the house, there's obviously a lot of construction debris already from other projects. But where you see the patio today, the extension that comes off the back, I'm proposing to put an attached garage where the patio is today, and then extend a new patio beyond the extension and the new garage that would wrap around to the side of the house and connect with the side porch as well. So that's what I'm proposing. What I've shown there is the 3 adjacent properties and their relation of the garages to the property line. That you can see of the purple ribbons are the survey. So what I'm displaying here in these pictures is that the 3 adjacent properties don't have 10 feet from the property line to their garages. It's nearly impossible, I think, in this neighborhood. They would literally be putting a garage in the middle of every lot in this neighborhood. So you can see that all 3 properties, I think all the garages are within 1 foot of the property line. So I'm hoping that putting my garage within 10 feet of the property line won't be an issue. And I believe the second issue is getting 10-foot of clearance to the neighbor's residence. So I think those are the 2 questions that we're here to talk about today. So you can see in this drawing where I'm proposing the new garage is the existing patio today. So there's a privacy fence between the 2 properties today. The new garage, and I'm proposing to extend it 3 feet beyond the back of the existing house just to make room for a man door. And then to the left of this, I would propose to put a new patio all the way across the back of the yard and then up the side of the house to the existing side porch to make that all connect.
And who has ownership of that chain link fence, and what's the disposition of that going to be?
The chain link fence belongs to me, and I'm hoping to replace that and put in a new privacy fence as well.
Okay. Great. Does your architect have anything to add at this point?
I will mention that the design of the new attached garage will be harmonious with the style of the existing house.
It is a cute house.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Janka, do you have anything you'd like to say at this point?
Yes, I would. First of all, I want to make this point that I've lived in this house since 1978, and that Mr. Ribkevich and I have been amicable neighbors since I've lived here. We've never had any issues. My questions are, I understand what he is proposing to do, but I currently have a wooden fence that runs along the property line. I do realize that his garage is going to be, from what I can tell in the notes, a foot off the property line, and I do not have an issue with that at all. My question or my worry is that because of where he's putting the garage, it will be rather close to my property and my wooden privacy fence that is currently installed, that should he have a fire, that my fence will go up, and then so will my house. There are also the electrical lines to both of our houses begin at a telephone pole that is in the corner of our adjoining properties in the back. From the drawings, it's very hard for me to tell because I'm not an architect. It appears that his garage is going to be right up to where those electrical lines are, and I don't know if Danny is planning on having those lines moved, and will mine then have to be moved, and who will incur the cost for that? I'm worried about the water runoff from this garage. Will he gutter the garage, and will the water drain down the driveway, or will it all go into my backyard? Because currently, if you review the pictures that he submitted, he does have quite a few big trees in the backyard, and he's done really good at trimming those. But he does have a lot of water in his backyard when it rains. I'm worried that the back of my house and I will have flooding issues because I've never, knock on wood, had water in my garage yet. in his backyard. And he did state that he plans on putting up a privacy fence, but I almost want to guarantee that he's going to put up a privacy fence. Otherwise, because he does have 2 Great Danes, and I have 2 small dogs, which is not anything that the zoning board needs to know. But Danny and I have always gotten along, and I think we can work this out. I was under the impression that his garage was going to start at the back of his existing building at the end of his patio. So his garage would be up much further than the rest of the neighborhood, because we were all told our garages had to line up, and Danny's will definitely up very close. So I sent an email this morning because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make this meeting, but I was worried about the electrical wires, the distance, the grading of the property, if that's going to be graded, and is my yard going to now start to flood, and the electrical wires and stuff like that. And then the last thing, which I didn't put in the email, is the construction. How are the cement and all that stuff, since our properties are so very, very close. If he has this done, is there going to be damage to my property, and who's going to fix it? Is Danny going to be responsible for that, or am I going to have to be responsible? Does he have to get what's called a construction easement to be able to do this? If he takes that chain link fence down? I'm not quite sure. I've never been to a meeting like this before, but I do have some concerns. And Danny and I have gotten along, as far as I'm concerned, ever since I moved in 1978. And I actually think, Danny, your house might have been one of the first ones, but I think my house is now 100 years old from what I saw on my thing. Because my house, this is a wonderful neighborhood. I have not moved back to Seven Hills, where I grew up, because I love the West Park area. So I really like to see construction being done and people moving in. But I do have this concern about the water in my backyard and the distance of how close it's going to be to my house. That 4 or 6 inches, I'm kind of concerned about.
All valid questions, Ms. Janik. So, and I jotted them all down. So
thank you.
I have on the list a concern about fire spread and retardant of the garage wall. I have gutters and any runoff redirection. The electrical line, the flooding with the new patio, and any construction related damage, particularly as it relates to removal of the chain link fence. So I'm going to toss it back to the appellant and his architect to respond to any of those concerns.
Absolutely. So I can start with the wires. So the wires running to your house, Kathy, are over your property. So they run from the telephone pole to your property. So they wouldn't be affected.
Right, but won't they be rather close to your garage?
We can't, I'm sorry, we can't do back and forth. We're just going to let him respond, okay?
Okay.
And then my wires, I need to replace my mast as it is. So what I'm proposing to do with mine is to run it from the back corner, and it would be on the right. As you're looking, you see the privacy fence, the wood on the right. So Kathy's lines run, so that's south of the fence line from the electrical pole, which you can see there by the tall grass in the other picture, straight to her house. Mine run to the nearest point at the driveway where I have a mast that needs to be replaced. So what I would be proposing is to install a new mast at the back corner of the new garage. So then my lines would run over the property line and not through my property. So they would run over the fence line. As far as water goes, obviously, my property is going to get a lot of landscaping. So I'm trying to abate that water. Obviously, I don't want a lake in my backyard. So the garage, there are drains. Currently, there's a drain on the patio. So that would be inside the garage now. And there's a drain in the driveway. And then there's a drain on the north end of the family room extension. So there's 3 drains right there that are accessible for the new gutters for the garage. So depending on landscaping professionals, if they you know, if they're proposing to me to install French drains in the backyard, I'd be, you know, open to doing that as well and tying that into the city waistline. But obviously, I'm going to try to get rid of that standing water in my backyard as well. So that'll all be part of the renovation project. As far as the fires are concerned, I think the question there is a 10-foot space between the residential building and the new garage. So that would be the only thing, the only question as far as the variance is concerned. I don't know, Michael, if you have anything to add as far as, you know, fire suppression or anything like that. I mean, obviously, like Kathy mentioned, there's already a wooden fence attached to the house. Obviously, the wooden fence would be flammable to begin with, so that there's that fire risk already attached to the house. But I don't know if anybody is an authority as far as, you know, fire suppression in the distance between the garage and the primary residence building.
Could I just ask, what is the finishing material going to be on the garage? The exterior finishing material?
Cedar shingle to match the
Cedar
existing.
shingle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same as the privacy fence, cedar.
Okay. All right. Okay. So from the project team, I think that covers all the touch points. And we're really here just about the distance to the garage, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to your neighbors' concerns since you're good neighbors and we want to keep it that way. So city planning, do you want to weigh in on this?
Did we want to hear from the councilman first, Madam Chair?
Certainly. I know sometimes they like to go at the very end, but Councilman Slife, would you like to comment now?
Yeah, briefly, my internet had skipped, but I got back on. But yeah, as it relates to the need for a variance for the distance, I'm in agreement that it's a hardship that locating garages 10 foot off the property line when our properties are only 40, maybe 50 foot wide, gets very impractical very quickly and would really negate people any ability to enjoy a backyard. You just have a garage plopped in the middle of it. So I'm in support of granting the variance, and I think that, you know, the questions about the construction and the staging and all of those are valid, a little beyond obviously BZA's authority, but I think it's useful to get them out there and make sure that we're communicating and understanding how the project and the end product are kind of aligned with the needs and expectations of the neighbor. So.
Yes, thank you. All right, so Councilman supports. So Maurice, now would you like to weigh in?
Sure, Madam Chair. I wanted to get a clarification from Mr. Riccardi. I believe that the reason we're stating 10 feet is because the garage is actually attached to the house. And so that becomes actually part of the house, and that's why there would be a 10-foot requirement to be set off the property line. If it is a freestanding garage, it would only need to be 18 inches off of the property line. Mr. Riccardi, could you weigh in on that? Make sure that I'm stating that correctly?
Yes, that is correct. That is what the zoning code states.
Right. So the 10-foot is again, like I said, because the garage is attached to the house, it becomes actually part of the house. So then what kicks in is the side yard requirements for a house. And in this district, it would be, it's because it's a one-family district, it would be 10 feet. Now, granted, all of the houses, as you can see, were probably built on 3-foot side yards in this neighborhood. So if the applicant wanted to move the garage back behind the house, it would only have to be 18 inches off the property line. As it is right now, it doesn't meet the 18 inches, obviously doesn't meet the 10 feet, and it doesn't meet the 3 feet. So there is that concern. But I wanted to clear up the 10-foot rule as it relates to this case.
Right, right. Okay.
So, and the other thing is that if the applicant next door ever decided to build anything on her property, now because this project is 1 foot off the property line, she would have to get a variance. If she wanted to be within 18 inches or 3 foot, she would have to get a variance even further because the distance between the main buildings. So that's always the concern. And
Oh,
if
just
the,
have
if the I think if the neighbor is amenable to the location, we would support the variance.
Okay. Ms. Chenka, do you understand all that? It sounds like your other points of concern are going to be addressed during the construction, and you've got Councilman Slife who, noted that it's always good to have these issues out in the forefront so that everybody is sort of on the same page. You understand city planning's explanation and, what that, how that impacts you?
I do, and I guess that's part of my concern because I wasn't quite sure what the regulations were as far as the house being off the property line, because I know when I put up my garage, we had to be 18 inches off the property line. And what
Right.
he's proposing is going to be pretty much right on the property line, so it doesn't leave much room in between for me to do anything. I'm wondering if there's any way, I wondered if he could move the garage just back a little bit and over, and I don't know how wide. I see where it says 470 something square feet. I can't read the numbers to see what the actual, like, is it 21 by 20 or how big that garage actually is. So it's 20 inches or 20 feet wide and 21 feet long, give or take.
Right.
And I guess I'm wondering, is there any way for him to move it so that it is back 10 feet? And then, I mean, he could still attach it to his house on the driveway side, but then he could have it back a little bit. And then I don't know how wide the driveway, I don't know if it's feasible to move it to the that's 6 inches we're talking about. Move it to the 18 inches so that should I ever sell this property, whoever buys it won't have those issues to deal with in the future.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Brown.
It seems like more conversation between the neighbors and the architects and the layout might be needed.
Mm-hmm. So what are you proposing?
That maybe they request a postponement, particularly given there are only 3 of us to vote on this today, and we would have to all be unanimous for it to pass.
Correct.
They take a little more time and come back, especially since they're agreeable neighbors. I don't have a sense that the site plan and the dimensions were discussed with the neighbor.
Correct. I'm getting that sense as well.
Ms. Janke wanted to say something, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not good with the computer. I don't have a problem postponing it. I don't know how that affects Danny because I don't really want to set him back on his plans either. I didn't know what the zoning board's part was in this besides just saying, okay, we'll give him the variance. So I don't have a problem with postponement. I would like to discuss this further with him and his architect because, like I said, I actually thought the garage, when I first got the notice from you folks about this hearing, I thought his garage was starting at the back of his existing property. And Danny and I did talk, and I just said to him, I had some questions that I really wanted to think about it. So that's why I wanted to be part of this hearing today. So thank you.
Board Member Brown has brought up the comment that it might be prudent to for the appellant to postpone, have further conversation, maybe work on another iteration of the drawing. City planning has some concerns about it. I have a concern about the fire issue, the fire suppression retardation issue. So would you be in agreement, sir, to postpone your case and have further conversation so you can work this out?
Sure. What kind of timeline are we talking?
Liz, I don't think we need to give them a lot of time since the councilman's on board. What can we look at for a date for them?
I think we could squeeze them on March 27th, but then the date after that is April 3rd.
Okay. Is March 27th adequate time for you?
Yes.
To the appellant?
It's fine with me. Michael, is that okay if we need to do some iterations of drawings? Is March 27th okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay, let's go to that then. So,
Madam Chair?
yes, Liz.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to state to the appellant for the record that this postponement does not guarantee that this will be whatever the final design is approved. This isn't a tentative approval based upon an updated plan. This is still, it's still up to the board to grant the variance or deny it. Thank you.
You're welcome, Liz. And a good point. But we always like to see all parties involved on the same page. And so I think this is a prudent thing to do. So again, Liz, our date for March is, what did we give them?
The 27th.
The 27th. Okay. So calendar number 23-012 is postponed to March 27th. To give time for the parties involved to discuss the project. All right. Thank you. We'll see you then.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other council people present? All right.
I did not see anybody.
All right. So I believe, Ms. Holzer, we can move on to 23-015.
Great. Our next case is calendar number 23-015. This is at 3301 Meyer Avenue. Robert Mann, owner, proposes to establish approximately 160 linear feet of 4-foot-high opaque wood fence in a B1 family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 2. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Reply, I do. State your name and your address, please. Okay. Is
We have no one here?
Robert Mahone on the line? Any appellants for this case?
He is here.
Can you tell
You are
him
muted, sir.
mute?
Okay, I just did
There we-
it. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I apologize. I don't know how to use this and I don't see a raise hand signal on my Android, but
We hear you. You're just fine. So I need you to state your name and your address, raise your right hand and say, I do.
Robert Mahan, 3301 Meyer Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio, 44109. I do.
Thank you. Anyone else for this case? Okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Could we have the history of the property, please?
Sure, Madam Chair, there's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In our Records Administration Office, we found that in 1912, there was an addition or alterations done to the property. And then in 1960, a permit was issued to erect a private block and brick garage. There are no variances on file, and we did find that in last year, January of last year, a certificate of disclosure was issued stating that the authorized use of the property is single family. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the fencing requirements of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Mahone, would you like to tell us what you'd like to do, please?
Well, I actually already did it. I didn't know. I bought this house in March of 22, and I contacted Home Depot. I have 2 rescue dogs, and I wanted them to be able to play, and he quoted me at 5,500, and he told me about the height, and I thought, and he said chain link, and I thought that's a lot of money for chain link. And then I went, unfortunately, on Craigslist, and I asked if there's any professionals, because I don't know how to do any of this stuff. And this guy knocked on my door with a notebook and paperwork, and he said he owns his own company, and he's this and that. And gullible me said, okay. And I said, do we need any permits? I said, I only spoke to Home Depot, and he didn't. He said, no, as long as it's only 4 feet high. And I believed him. And then I said, I don't care what kind of fence. I just want security. When I first moved in, there was people that would sit all over on the stoop. I'm just telling it as it is, forgive me, but a woman was sitting there and she'd say to me, I'm going to have my beer. And I said, oh, no, you're not. I didn't know it was that way. I'm not from Cleveland, and I wanted the fence up as soon as possible. So I went with this, I was going to say gentleman, and long story short, he couldn't get it together. And then he said, I'm great at wooden fences, and I'm going to put it up. And I said, okay. He wound up not finishing it. He stole all the tools I bought and walked away. So my neighbors next door.
Wow.
Yeah. He said,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he said, I need to make you this perfect front gate, because prior to that, I used to ask him to leave the tools that I purchased, but I asked him, if you're a professional, shouldn't you have your own tools? But so anyway, I'm just too trusting. But anyway, so my neighbors, they came over, excuse me, and they finished the fence for me. And they were happy, and I was happy, and opened the door, and the dogs went out and play. Now, since I've had the fence up, I don't mind telling you, I even put lights on the posts that are inside, and it looks really nice. And my neighbors all complimented me, and a neighbor across the way, she said, I've lived here all my life. I've never seen the place look so good. Neighbors up the block, they beep their horn, and they give me the thumbs up. They stop, and they say, you did what you had to do. It's for privacy. It's for security. And some guy came, and he's known to be a little wild. He came one day when I was on a stepladder painting the side of the house. I heard a commotion. I didn't know what it was. He was smashing all the lights off with a metal bar. And so come to find out, this little particular area is a little bit like that. So I'm relieved that it's a wooden fence, and I make sure it's locked up, and I put stuff up against the gate. But I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm a little nervous. But yeah, so I didn't know. Had I known that I needed a permit, I would have went and applied for it. I always do the right thing. But I didn't know, and I wound up with this fence. It wound up costing me more than the chain link fence. And I just don't know what to do. So I was surprised when code enforcement knocked on my door, and he was not too happy about it. And I didn't know. Now, I know ignorance of the law and all those things is no excuse, but I honestly didn't mean any disrespect. But it did cost me a lot of money. If I have to take it down, I would move. I wouldn't feel safe. I don't mind telling you, in this block particular, and maybe I'm going on and rambling, but I had to call 311 and tell them they're going through the stop sign, they're speeding. This particular 4 corners, I consider myself and what I'm doing a compliment. I had a guy stop and say, wow, somebody watering the lawn. The garbage that flows even on this intersection, they throw bags of McDonald's out the window. I've never seen that before in my life. And it comes all over the property. So I mow my grass, I'm planting shrubs, I'm doing everything I can, but it's an uphill battle. But the real estate agent told me, I said, now I'm having an issue with the fence. I didn't know, and I have it. She said, well, before you list it, we don't want someone to love the fence and then you have to take it down. And I said, if I don't have the fence, I'm going to go. So I put her on hold because I wouldn't feel safe, to be honest with you here. It would be an open invitation. Now, some people told me, and some people disputed it being on. They said this used to be some kind of a meth house or something. I don't know, but somebody said, nah. But somebody told me, and my neighbors behind me, acquaintance of theirs, said that it was, and they said, you did the right thing by putting up that fence. So I look at this fence not only now what I initially thought, as so my dogs can play, and I never leave them out unsupervised anyway. But I look at it as a serious safety thing. And then if I had to take it down, I don't even know how I would do it. I had so many problems just getting anybody to put it up. So I'm just like a little like, wow, I didn't expect all this. So you can ask me anything you want, and I apologize if I went off course. I actually stood up all night so I wouldn't miss the meeting. I normally sleep from like 6 in the morning to like 3 in the afternoon. So I'm just a little bit, you know, not too professional as I should be. Pardon me.
Thank you, Mr. Mahone, for sharing all that information with us. You bought the house, moved in March of 22, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so what we call this is seeking forgiveness rather than permission. So this is not the first time this has happened. So just relax a little bit and we'll move on with the case, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Maurice, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yes, Madam Chair. So first of all, sorry for the issues with getting this fence put up and that your tools were stolen and all. That's very, very unfortunate. Just wanted to point out that we did get one letter of support from a neighbor that lives at 3221 Meyer Avenue saying basically that Mr. Mahone has done a nice job keeping the fence up. Keeping the property up and making improvements, and she has no objection to the fence. Now, of course, as you know, had Mr. Mahone come to us before the fence was erected, we would not have approved this fence as built. It needs to be 50% open. And at this point, I'm not as concerned about that because I do think there is somewhat of a hardship here because he has, if you look at the at this aerial view here, he has basically no backyard with which to have his dogs out. So I do understand the need to have a fenced area that would be secure for the dogs. So I'm not so concerned about that. My only concern is the normal one that we have that becomes somewhat of a safety issue when someone is backing out, especially of the neighbor's driveway. In the bottom left picture, you cannot see a pedestrian walking down the sidewalk if you're pulling out in anything other than a giant SUV or a pickup truck. You'd be low enough to the ground where you wouldn't be able to see beyond the fence. So that's our concern here. I will point out that the neighbor on the other side of that driveway has what looks to be 6 to 8 foot shrubbery that probably provides it limits the view pulling out, especially in the summer when there's green on the shrubs, makes it even more of a safety hazard, but we're not here to talk about that right now.
Right, so you're referring to
so that's my concern.
Top right picture, the hedge that's on the top right picture to the right of that driveway.
Right.
Okay. All right. Board, do you have any comments or questions? No. City planning, do you have any suggestions for how to mitigate the situation? I have a couple, but I'll let you speak.
Yeah, the obvious one would be to, as we normally do, kind of chamfer that corner. I'm not sure how that would look visually in the front. We've never had this issue before that I can remember. It's usually, the issue usually arises when the fence is next to the garage or encloses the garage, and so the car can't back out. We normally don't have this kind of an issue with the front yard and the neighbor's driveway, being an issue. So, the only issue, the only way around that I can see, again, is either pulling out boards around the corner or completely, chamfering that corner and taking the corner of the fence out and chamfering it. I don't know that either of those solutions really work in this case.
And which corner would you, you're talking about just chamfering one corner, and which corner are you talking about? Here. The one by the stop sign or the one by the drive? The one by the driveway.
The one by the neighbor's driveway, right? Not by the stop sign.
All right, because I feel like we have
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with the setback from the fence from the stop sign?
Yes. Yeah, I think
Okay.
there's enough of a clear space when you pull up on the street that you can see somebody standing on the sidewalk, and if you pull up, you can actually see the traffic coming on the perpendicular street.
All right.
Madam Chair and City Planning, may I ask Mr. Mahone, how long has the fence been up?
Oh, wow. Well, when I got here in March, I wanted it up the day after, but as I mentioned, it was not easy to find anybody after the Home Depot guy gave me
Sure,
that.
but when was the fence completed?
Oh, gee, I'm gonna guesstimate to the best I can. March, here, April, May, June. Couple of months, maybe 3 or 4 months into it. I apologize. I'd have to go.
No, that's fine.
fine.
I just wanted an estimate. I guess the point
I
I'm
want to
making is
put
been
that
up
if I
for,
may.
the point I'm making, Madam Chair, is
Yes.
been up for almost 6 months.
Right.
Is your neighbor having a problem backing in and out?
They're the ones that built the fence. Remember when I told you they pitched in and they came over, and she called me, and I can tell you almost verbatim, she said, "Robert, what do you want me to say?" It's in a text message actually that and I text her back. I said, I didn't lock her into my phone, so I didn't know who it was, but
No
I said to
problem.
her, "It's not what I want you to say, it's what you want to say." But they're the ones. She told me, "My husband's going to help you," she said. And the thing, the reason too that I was grateful for the wooden fence is they have a serious pit bull. I knew his name, but I can't think of it. And I always say hello to him. But I said to her, "Oh wow, I didn't know." I said because I don't like the dogs going at it through a chain link fence if they do that.
Sure.
But he's very nice. I love animals, so we get along
Okay,
good.
Mr.
Like,
Mahone.
Mr. Mahone, it was the neighbors to, if you're looking at the pictures, it's the neighbors to the right of your house.
correct.
The folks that have the hedge in front that helped you erect the fence, and it's been up now for about 6 months. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
All right,
She told me
great.
she was going to send you an email, but
Mr. Mahone,
That's
thank
fine.
you. So the point I'm making, Madam Chair, is that their shrub is as much of a hindrance as the the wood board fence. And both have been up for more than 6 months. I'm not looking for mitigation on that side.
Okay, all right. Maurice, are you comfortable with that? City planning?
I follow the board. It's the board's
Okay.
decision, and if that is the board's decision, I am fine
All
with
right.
that.
Ms. Brown, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I am willing to say after the presentation from the appellant, and the letter of support from the neighbor, I move approval of the variance, understanding that this is a situation where the fence has been completed. And with regard to safety and experience, I move we approve this as an exception.
Ms. Holzer, would you like to second?
I second.
Thank you. Liz, do you want to call the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Holzer,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Vate.
Yes.
Calendar number 23-015 is granted. It'll be ratified when we meet again next week, and then we will send the appellant a letter.
So, Mr. Mahone, you understand that you're going to be able to keep your fence as it exists. So thank you for being with us today, and good luck to you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair,
right.
if I could say one thing, the applicant still needs to complete the permit process before it's technically legal.
Just tell me what do I got to do? Go down to the court again, the city of Cleveland?
Yes, we will send you a letter after it's ratified, and there's instructions in that.
Oh, so I'll wait for a letter, and then when I get it, I'll go down and do whatever I'm supposed to do?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure I got it right. Thank you again, all.
All right. All right,
Thank you.
Ms. Holzer, moving on.
Our next case is calendar number 23-027. This is at 2446 Professor Avenue. Daniel W. Larson and Kyle C. Nielsen, owners, propose to erect a 2-story frame duplex with 3 concrete parking spaces in a B1 two-family residential district. The owners appeal for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances, as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 4. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and your address.
I do. Wesley Harper, 812 Huron Road East, Cleveland, 44115.
I do. Dan Larson, 1509 Winton Avenue, Lakewood, Ohio, 44107.
Anyone else for this case? Madam Chair.
Thank you. Could we have the history of the property, please?
Madam Chair, if I could ask the applicant first if he would like to present both these Professor Avenue cases at the same time.
I would, yes. Thank you.
All right. So thanks for getting that clarification, Liz. Ms. Holzer, so we're going to turn this into a bundle. So if you'll read calendar number 23-028, please.
This is at 2448 Professor Avenue. Again, Daniel W. Larson and Kyle C. Nielsen, owners, propose to erect a 2-story frame duplex with 3 concrete parking spaces in a B1 two-family residential district. The owners appeal for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances, as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 4. And do we need them to swear in again for this one?
Unless there's anyone else that is making statement, we're good.
There is not.
Okay, great. And legal standard, is there anything else that needs to be added for this second case?
Oh, they're the same.
All right. And anything else to the history of the property, Liz?
No, Madam Chair, I would just state that there's no change in the zoning. There are no variances on file. We didn't find anything in the Records Administration Office and nothing in the more recent history as well. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Mr. Harper, we haven't seen you in a while. Are you going to be speaking on behalf of your clients on this?
I am, yes, but he'll be here to answer any direct questions if needed.
Okay, great. Do you want to go ahead with your, tell us what you're going to do for these 2 cases, please?
Sure. Yeah, we have our presentation here for this project, 2446 and 2448 Professor Avenue. This is kind of a phase 2 in some way. Previous project that we did on the front of the parcel at 2450 Professor. You can see there at the left, that structure was built in 2017. And so to the north of us, we have a duplex that Mr. Larson and his partners have purchased. So really, as it stands right now, we have 2 parcels that go basically from the Professor sidewalk to mid-block. And they're rather deep parcels, over 200 feet, I believe. And right now we have 2450, which is a currently fully inhabited 3-unit apartment building with parking in the back. Right now we have 24 Professor, which is just a rehab or in the future, but is currently inhabited by renters. So the next sheet shows us here what we're proposing, which is a two new 2-unit apartment structures in the rear. They're each 2 stories with roof access for a roof. In between the proposed buildings and the existing structures that face Professor is a parking area and some green space for tenants. We will be removing the curb cut along Professor for the 2444 Professor Avenue home. And all vehicular access will be coming from the 2450 Professor curb cut. So in many ways, we're adding parking to the site itself and then opening up what could be an additional parking space on Professor. We aren't looking for any parking variance, but I just thought I'd bring that up. Our setbacks that we're proposing for the 2 new buildings in the rear of the parcels are rather similar to a lot of the new single family and townhome projects that are going up in the neighborhood. Here you can see we have matching 2-story units and there's an apartment on each floor. So we think it's kind of in some ways, kind of a hidden density addition to the neighborhood, not really impacting the fabric along Professor. And Mr. Larson and his partners have a track record of taking care of their parcels and offering some nice rental units to the neighborhood. So again, the variances that we're seeking today are quite similar for the Tremont neighborhood. We've been through Block Club, we've went to Tremont Economic Development Committee. We've gone through multiple schemes to respond to the feedback we received from the neighborhood. And I believe we have support of everyone we need to. I don't believe the HDRS approval is final at this point, but we've been working with them on adjusting a couple things that meet their criteria. So I'm sure Maurice can weigh in on that, but this is, in my view, something that we're well on our way to keeping everybody happy from a design review and stakeholder perspective. So with that, I'd open it up to any questions or comments you may have.
Okay. Board, what questions or comments do you have for Mr. Harper or the owner? All right. City planning, do you want to weigh in at this point?
Sure, Madam Chair, Maurice Rowland, City Planning. Let me go back to the site plan. Yeah, so this was seen by the HDRS committee, and we fully believe that some of the minor things that have been asked for will be met by Wesley Harper. We don't have any issues with that. One of the things that was requested, originally they had proposed 11 surface spaces in the rear, and the committee wanted to see a little bit more green space in the rear, so it's just not a sea of concrete back there. So we asked them to remove a couple of spaces, which they did, and as you can see, this provides for a little bit more green space in the middle where it would have been just a sea of concrete, so we think that helped a lot. These variances are the typical ones that we would see for area variances, and this is also a very typical layout in the Tremont area where you have some deep lots, and we're getting some, I guess, what we'd like to call some gentle density added in here because there's more than enough room to provide for these extra homes, and they are meeting the parking requirement, which is a big deal in Tremont.
Yeah.
So we would recommend approval.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Brown, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It just occurred to me. So the 2444 unit, is it a single or is it also a double? Can you tell us?
Yes, thank you. It is currently a duplex owned by the applicant. And at this date, there's no plans to rehab it right now. But potentially in the future, that's something that they possibly do. But it would remain as is right now at the current rent. They would have a parking space. They'd have 2 parking spaces in the back here. And it really becomes a better parking situation for that home than what it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, I like the parking in between the units. One more question. Are the units in the back all intended to be rental?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I had just a couple of questions. Ms. Holster, did you have any questions? Okay. My questions are, Maurice, if I'm clear on this, the site plan that we're looking at on the screen now is the latest iteration with the removal of a couple of parking spaces and expanded green space. Is that correct?
Correct, Madam Chair. There were originally 11, I believe, if I'm not correct. Wesley,
All right.
correct? There was 11?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that would have been a sea of concrete. So, so good to see it. We've added a little more greenery in there. And also with regard to the properties that are specified to be rental, that is long-term rental lease agreements, residential as opposed to short-term, any kind of leasing or short-term rental. Is that correct?
That's correct. Mr. Larson has a track record of, keeping these units filled on yearly leases on the front 3-unit building and in the 2444 Professor home. So I feel like the neighborhood is very comfortable with Mr. Larson and, the apartments that they're offering.
Right, right.
I just have one more question, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
go ahead.
So you're not consolidating the lots, are you?
No, typically,
Are you going to do a easement agreement for the parking?
that's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, the building department likes to have, I believe the building department that prefers singular structure, singular parcels. So something like this, requires us to split those 2 existing deep lots into 4 smaller parcels. Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a full disclosure, I did forget to put up an opposition letter that we did get. Let me see if I can share this now.
Can you summarize that for us, given the size?
I can read it for you. My wife and I are owners of 2440 Professor Avenue, and its adjoining parcel. We object to the variance, 2 variances, 1 to 3 of both calendar items. There are already too many houses, apartments squeezed onto Tremont lots, leaving little room for trees, gardens, and places for children to play. The developers came to the block club meeting with their original plan to build 3 units on each parcel, to which the neighbors said no. I recognize their motivation to build more places, but there are other neighborhoods in this wonderful city of ours that are less congested. My question is this the strict application of the following sections of the zoning code as stated in the letter I received? I applaud number 4. Sincerely, Jeffrey Chipless.
Okay, great. All right. Does that trigger any further questions from the board members?
Well, is there support from the Tremont CDC? Usually they show up to talk about it.
I think Mr. Wesley has testified that they have Black Club support, and they also have support from the Tremont Economic Development Committee, though we don't have anyone from Tremont CDC with us today that I can see. Is that correct, Mr. Wesley or Mr. Harper?
Yes, I mean, we did present to Block Club on 2 occasions. We then went to Tremont Economic Development Committee and received approval there. That's typical for the process of going through the neighborhood.
Correct, yes. Were
Whatever.
there, because these are very deep lots and typical to the neighborhood, these are usually like piggyback houses. So were there at one point existing buildings in the rear of these lots?
Yes, on both. And you can even see in the photos that Maurice took, there is an existing home in the back right now, and there was one at 2450 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's in many ways just replacing what was there.
Exactly, exactly. It was already, the lots were designed that way. That's why they're that deep. So it's really not altering the density. I mean, in terms of the number of structures on the lots.
Correct.
So do we have any communication from Councilman McCormick on this, Liz?
Madam Chair, no, I haven't received anything.
Okay. All right. I will entertain a motion. Board?
I could do it. So, having heard testimony from the architect and city planning, I move to approve calendar number 23-028 and calendar number 23-027.
Member Brown, I second.
Thank you, Member Brown. Liz, would you like to call the roll, please?
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Bate?
Yes.
Calendar numbers 23-27 and 23-28 have been granted. They will be ratified next week, and we will send the appellant a letter.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Looks like a good project.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right, moving on to, I think we're at 23032 next, right?
Yep.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, just wanted to note that there is a note in the chat about wanting to postpone this until there was a full board available. I don't know if that's still the case.
All right. Could we have whoever put that in the chat? Could we have them?
He is raising his hand now.
All right, excellent. Could you speak, please, sir?
Good morning. Yes, it's Majid Makhlouf with the law firm of Burns, Ochsner, Greenberger. I am legal counsel for the project, and with not having a full board, we would like to postpone it until we have a full board.
Okay. Liz, you want to give us a date, what we have available, and so that we make sure that everybody's back?
Yes, Madam Chair, I don't have any notes as to whether any board members will be out on the 27th and also April 3rd. So we could put them on either.
Yeah, the March 27th works for us.
Okay. All right. I think I'm comfortable that we'll have enough, we'll have board members on by then, I think, right?
Thank you so very much.
That,
yeah, and just for the record, we have the councilman's approval and we've met with the planning department. We've done everything to be ready for this. It's just, you know,
okay.
Just being ready for this.
All right. We will, not to get too far into this, but we'll want to have whatever documentation or a letter from council if he's unavailable that day.
Understood.
Okay. So we'll go to March 27th then, and we will hear the case in full then. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so I believe then, Ms. Holzer, that leaves us with 22-233 as our final case today.
All right.
Is that correct, everyone?
I believe so.
All right, great. Go ahead then.
Our last case is calendar number 22-233. This is at 9119 Kempton Avenue. Bill Page, owner, proposes to establish use as a residential facility / family home for a maximum of 5 persons in an A1 one-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances, as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 2. This case was originally postponed on January 23rd at the request of the councilman for further review. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply I do, state your name and your address, please. Okay, is there a Mr. Bill Page or someone else here for this case? Anyone from the community, neighbors for this case?
Liz or Maurice, do you want to remind everyone of what to do if they're on the phone and they need to unmute?
You'll need to unmute in order to speak, although, there are some names on here, but I don't recognize any of them for this particular case.
Yeah. All right. Last call for Bill Page for calendar number 22-233. Okay. Liz?
Madam Chair, we should make a motion to dismiss this case.
All right. Could I have a
Madam
motion?
Chair,
Yes.
before you do that, I do recall seeing an email from the councilman's assistant confirming the postponement for the other case in his ward. And there was something on there about another case, and I was wondering if they just got the address incorrect and they were actually looking for another postponement on this case. Did you, Ms. Kukla, did you see that email I'm referring to?
Yes, Madam Chair, and to Mr. Rulins, I spoke with his aide last week, and no, they are trying to keep this particular address on Empire on our radar so that we can notify them when we receive it. So
okay, I just wanted to confirm.
Correct.
So no further communication about this one.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. I didn't want you to
Okay.
dismiss it, in case there was a mistake
no,
on
thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we're clear. We have nothing as a request from anyone for further postponement on this. So I'll entertain a motion for dismissal, please, board.
Madam Chair, I move dismissal of calendar number 22-233.
And a second, please.
Apologies,
You're on
could not find my
There you
mute button. I second.
See what happens when you have to jump in. All right, we have a second. Ms. Kukla, if you'd like to call the roll.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. Holzer.
Yes.
Ms. Fate.
Yes.
Calendar number 22-233 is dismissed. The applicant has 7 days to request a reinstatement, and after that, they would have to reapply, just for your information, Madam Chair.
And how do we notify them?
We send a letter to them today.
Okay, great. Just in case. All right, so that concludes our regular business for today. We'll move on to old business. And we have calendar numbers 3 through 9, 13, and 15 through 20. That's a lot of old business today. Board without objection?
No objection.
Without objection.
Great, okay. And Liz, do you want to go over the other information?
Sure. So the first thing on the second portion of this old business is regarding an affirmation request from Mohammed Abazid, and the calendar number is 22-150 regarding erecting a garage at 18823 Ferncliff Avenue. He said that he's had some health issues and will need more time to complete the permit process.
All right. Are we comfortable with that, board? You want to, no objection to giving him an extension?
No objection.
No objection.
Great. Okay. So we can handle that one. All right. Go ahead, Liz.
And the next item is just a procedural note. Last week, after we had, after a couple of the board members left and we read the issue regarding the LMM security plan, we did have a neighbor that was present and had thought that he would be able to speak. And he proceeded to give some testimony. So I think that we have gotten off the habit of adjourning the meeting at the end. So just as a note, we need to make sure that that on the record we state that the meeting is adjourned.
Yes. And that as a point of order to the board members, when we reach the end of the meeting, we will need a motion to adjourn, and that needs to be seconded so we can formally close the meeting. And that will hopefully allow for anyone like the situation that happened last week to speak before we adjourn. And we don't have people who have excused themselves before we finish, and we can handle those situations. So just as a point of order, we'll need to call for an adjournment before we formally end the meeting. All right, last item.
Point, Madam Chair.
Yes.
So, I think I'm guilty. So is there some minutes or something that I should review to be aware of what transpired?
I don't think we have written testimony of it. It was basically not on the record. So I think probably you and Liz might be able to fill you in on, a summary of it if the two of you feel that's necessary.
Thank you.
I can do that, and also it should be on the recording, right, Maurice? If you wanted to see it immediately after this, I think it's going to be on the recording from last week.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it
would
was still.
It would be on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think we were still recording at that point, so you can capture it that way. All right. Lastly, Liz.
Again, these are just two other miscellaneous details, and there's no action required for these. The Ford Road cases that have gone to the Court of Common Pleas at this point, the applicants have also filed a motion to stay the decision of the board pending the administrative appeal at the Court of Common Pleas. So we have an attorney, Carolyn Downey, that is responding to that.
Okay.
And then calendar number 22-235 regarding 3929. It's the Speakeasy Groomsmen Lounge, if you remember. We did have one objector, or at least one objector there that I can remember, Mr. Ellison, and he has appealed our decision to the Court of Common Pleas as well.
Okay. All right. One expected, one not expected. So that's the way it goes. All right. Is there anything else from the board? All right. Then we'll go to a motion to adjourn. If someone will give me that.
I move we adjourn.
And a second, please.
I second.
All right. Liz, the roll.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.